Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is Kitty Pryde Wolverine number 4. Continuing this series of this, so far turning out to be a pretty exciting mini series. So we get back to our team, and we got an opening splash page of a car driving, and not exactly the world's greatest splash page. I'm not going to admit here. This one's kind of weak compared to the previous ones. But we're looking right here. Two people yelling at each other. They open up, and inside the car is Yukio. Wolverine not looking so good. Kitty Pryde kind of tied up, and there's Papa Pryde being kind of a little bitch in the back seat. So yeah, Wolverine's in big trouble. He just got freaking katana through the chest. Yukio is kind of pissed off and doesn't want to hear it from Kitty Pryde's dad. And I like how they got the right side of the vehicle correct for Japan, because Japan does drive on the opposite side of the road. Uh, so we get over here. She's driving crazy. She finally has enough, and she's about ready to freaking toss this dude off the other side of the cliff. Uh, and then Kitty Pryde kind of becomes conscious and she escapes. Now Yukio has to go chase after her. And then there's like a recap of what exactly happened and why we're in this situation. So Kitty Pryde, yep, she freaking shish kebabbed Wolverine, uh, kind of basically Dante and every Devil May Cry, basically. And then while this is going on, she's explaining while she's fighting Kitty Pryde at this point how she even captured her to begin with, and basically she was able to kind of get the jump on her, and she threw her with some sleeping darts to put her out of commission. And then in this one, she kind of has this crazy fight with her where she has to do all of her crazy tricks to get the jump on Kitty Pryde. Eventually, just bitch slapping her unconscious again and getting her back in the car. And then we get into this one. Then we make it to this estate that they were going to all the way in the mountains. I'm not sure why we want to go to the mountains, but we got an estate there. And then we go back to Kitty Pryde, and she's having a nightmare of what exactly happened, what's been going on with her. And then when she wakes up, she gets reunited with Wolverine. They kind of hug, and he's like, "Oh, easy on the ribs, lady." And it turns out everything that she did, that she had a nightmare of, it's totally true. Yeah, this like face drawing isn't exactly the best, but yeah, I kind of like, I'll forgive him for this one, but this definitely could have been done better. We go here, and he like offers her food, and then you get a pretty funny scene where while she like refuses in the beginning that she's not hungry, and then she starts eating, seeing Wolverine eat it, and she's like, at second thought, I'm gonna grab some as well. Meanwhile, he's kind of explaining, or she's explaining what happened and why she was out there, and he was asking her, okay, why'd you go out there and on your own? And she was explaining her situation. They're both basically dialoguing, explaining the story thus far. And then Wolverine tells kind of the story of Ogun, the dude who brainwashed her, and it's a pretty freaking wild ass story. So this is really cool. Chris Claremont takes actually some Japanese lore into this story. So apparently Ogun had met freaking the freaking Miyamoto Musashi, and they like freaking had a duel or test of wills, and he freaking drew with Miyamoto Musashi, which is kind of like, whoa, okay. I wonder if American readers at the time they were reading that even knew who Musashi was. I like how he gets the detail right. Yeah, he had the two swords. That was what Musashi was known for. Anyhow, yeah. So Wolverine kind of basically like mansplains freaking Japanese culture to Kitty Pryde, and yeah, it's kind of, so he's just going over the legacy and kind of explaining what happened to her, and that, hey, I don't think you realize this, but you've been basically been brainwashed. So he gives her a rake to go work on the garden. She's like, okay. And then by the time, so meanwhile, Yukio is gonna tell her that, hey, dude, you should just freaking bounce and get out of here, because there's no way you're gonna beat Ogun. And she goes and basically zens this whole garden, and he's like, "How the hell do you have knowledge of any of this stuff?" And she's like, "Uh oh." Yeah, you've been like brainwashed by Ogun. So some of this, I'm not gonna lie, this issue is not as strong as the other issues, just because there's so much. I think there's a lot of like Chris Claremont kind of nerding out on Japanese culture, which isn't a bad thing. It's just sort of interesting. It's not, or I mean, it's interesting if you're kind of into that thing. It's not so interesting if you're not. So this is kind of like a boring issue in the max. But a lot of things have happened, so I guess it's kind of a good slowdown. There is one good part that I do want to talk about that I think is freaking cool. So he goes over and he's like, "It's time to go do some training, get in that hyperbolic time chamber." And it's kind of cool. He asks her to basically hold this sword for as long as she can, you know. And she's going the usual thing. Oh, it's impossible. Is like, no, it's not. Da, 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 da. Let's go. Like doing usual like training montage. She gets tossed into freaking icy cold water, and they swim through laps and stuff. And she's busy trying to train and do what she can. Meanwhile, he gets a phone call, and it's just a lot of bad news back there. This is around the time Storm loses her powers, and then I forget what's the not Vindicator, but the one guy from Alpha Flight, yeah, gets killed. And he obviously, Wolverine being Canadian and originally starting with Alpha Flight, I love this panel to panel right here. Even though this is a static panel, just him reacting to this thought bubble, just rage. Like this is like really cool, and it's great character development for him. He cares about Alpha Flight, his old team, even though he left them for the X-Men. And then this is where it really gets cool. So they're free. So there's a blizzard going on, actually tied to some other issues too, which is pretty cool. Good job, Miss Nascenti. Uh, and they're running through the snow, jogging, and she busts her ankle, and this is really cool. So she busts her ankle in the middle of this training session, running through the blizzard, and she's like, "Give me a hand." She's got, and then Wolverine's like, "You got two of your own." It's like my ankle's twisted, and it's like I'm hurt, and Wolverine's like, "No, you're not." She screams, "Help me!" And he's like, "Help yourself." This is great, dude. Holy crap! Wolverine's not taking any crap. He's like seriously trading her. It's like I'll freeze here, Logan. I'll die, then get up. And then he's just giving her the tough love, and she's like, "This isn't fair." And it's like it never is. And then he's pretty much, "It wasn't fair for Storm. It wasn't fair for my friend. Like what makes you think things would be different for you? The trick is taking the hand you're dealt and winning anyway. It's a decision only you can make, Catherine. The most important you'll ever face. The only one that matters." And then she's like here screaming Wolverine, begging and please as he's running off into the distance. Like, oh, this right here, like this 2 page right here is almost worth like the rest of the. I don't know. The rest of it was kind of boring. It was all right, but this page right here, like you never get stuff like this in modern comics. They'll never ever challenge a female character like this in modern comics, like the way Wolverine has challenged Kitty Pryde here. And you know what the cool part about it is that he makes it back and she rises to the occasion. She gets up and she overcomes it. And then at the end of the day, obviously she takes a little break in the hot tub and whoa, we almost get kitty boobies right here. She grabs the sword and she freaking accomplishes the task. She carries that thing for freaking multiple days. And by the time she's done, she's mastered it from hard work. Not because she was great to begin with, but because she worked to get it. And then you have this little teaser for the next one where she's thinking of leaving and going back home, but she has unfinished business. And we're going to get to that in the next issue. So, yeah, man, not as good of an issue. Honestly, I would say it's like slightly better than the first issue, but only for those 2 pages, because those 2 pages are amazing writing. Also, it's amazing writing that you're not going to see in modern comics nowadays. Not as good as 2 and 3, but still solid. Can't wait to get to 5 and 6. So we'll be doing those next. But anyhow, if you got a comment on this one, oh, by the way, yeah, it's Chris Claremont, Alan Milgrom, with Mr. Shooter in charge of the whole operation, and Miss Nascenti doing the editing. But yeah, if you got if you like the video, please hit the thumbs up to like it. subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and if you got a comment on below behind this story for this story or this comic issue, drop it down below, and I will see you next time.